What's up, everyone? Pags here at MEI Studio, and we're starting off what I consider a new season of videos with a mic that just about everyone has seen and heard, but don't actually realize that they have. We're looking into the 635 family of mics from Electro-Voice, this time on the Mic Locker. I was doing some research on another topic when I noticed a shape that kept popping up in video after video and photo after photo. I started going back through some of the videos and photos that I had collected and confirmed that I had indeed seen the same mic over and over again in the late 60s all the way through to the 1980s on a bunch of different music shows on TV. Now, a lot of times today, and I guess as well back then, performances were pre-recorded and singers and musicians were just faking it and lip-syncing the words. Sometimes it was a little harder to tell who was doing it live and who was phoning it in. Artists like Michael Jackson, Jim Croce, Janis Joplin, Billy Paul, Linda Ronstadt, Hendrix, Don Cornelius, Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, all the same mic. While some of these performances may have been questionable for them being live, one performance that featured the mic was certainly being done live. Yeah, if you've never seen that clip, you need to watch it. It's absolutely hilarious. So, what was this mic that was just seemingly everywhere on every music show in the time? A tiny little mic from Electro-Voice called the 635A. The 635A began life as the 635 and looked quite a bit different. The EV630 and 635 were very similar looking and featured almost the exact same body. The mounting hardware on the 635 was a little different though. This mic was originally released all the way back in 1947. Originally used for public address and dispatch duty, other areas of interest picked the mic up for use such as ham radio operators and the press as an interview mic. The mic had an omnidirectional pattern which was useful for use on interviews where the subject may not be perfectly centered on the mic. The pattern also helped with plosive rejection and wind noise rejection. After 18 years of service, Electro-Voice decided to give a facelift, or rather a complete redesign to the mic, and bill it as a rugged all-purpose mic for the press, television, stage, and studio. The new design was tiny by comparison to its counterparts of the day. A solid unibody construction with a rigid windscreen over the capsule, reinforced with a signature knurled screw in the center. The mic was operational in all conditions, windy, wet, hot, dry, and cold. It still featured an omnidirectional pattern around its face, allowing the mic to pick up evenly anywhere in front of the mic without tonal shifts from moving sources. The internal shock absorption was described as jelly-like to keep the transfer of sound from the case and the cable to a minimum, otherwise known as handling noise. The mic was touted to have a 4-stage pop filter built into the tiny head of the mic, and its output was considered high by this manufacturer. I don't know, I guess I have different standards when it comes to what I consider a high output mic, but sure, I guess it's 1965. The mic size allowed it to also be billed for use as a lavalier microphone as well, with an optional 649B neck cord assembly kit. Yeah, not sure about that one either, but hey. Manufacturers also released a letter to dealers and the press, and they said to watch out for the 635A to be popping up on TV screens like mushrooms as the first production run made its way to the networks. And yeah, it kind of looks like a mushroom a little, and it definitely did pop up. The mic became one of the most used microphones for television interviews and performances at the time, but why? There were certainly better options available at the time, right? Well, size and color were a contributing factor. The mic's size kept it from obscuring the face of the performers or interviewers or interviewees, and the color, being a more matte finish, kept the lights from reflecting off of it, which used to cause picture problems to be blown out, like if a light hit like a guitar or a microphone, you'd get this weird kind of blast out thing. Anyway, its near indestructible design would ensure it could stand up to the rigors of constant use, which was a cost-saving measure. I mean, heck, if the mic doesn't break, you don't have to replace it. You're saving money, I guess. And the Omni pattern, Turns out for an interviewee or artist that moves around a lot or even just a little off-center, the omni pattern helps keep the tone and level consistent, even if the subject isn't right on the mic. And speaking of right on the mic, the omnidirectional pattern doesn't exhibit proximity effect like a directional mic does either. The mic was popular enough that other companies like AKG adopted its look with their D130. The D130 was also an omnidirectional mic and bore a striking resemblance to the 635A. Sometime later, and it's near impossible to find dates for Electro-Voice products for some reason, a longer-handled version, the 635L, was released, which would allow for easier reach for hosts and interviews using the mics. Sometime in the 2000s, another version, the 635ND, was released, which featured Electro-Voice's use of neodymium magnets, which resulted in both a higher output and a very different frequency response. We have examples of an older 635A, a newer 635A-B, and the 635ND here in the studio that we're about to take on a test drive on various instruments. But first, let's do a vocal test. Okay, first I want to do a vocal test with this mic. This is the 635A, and before we do anything, I want to put something to bed about the 635A and the 635AB. This is the 635A, this is the 635AB. The only difference between this mic and the previous is the color of the outside and the color of the grill. Otherwise, same microphone. They're dynamic mics, so there is going to be a bit of a sliding scale of how they sound from unit to unit. Same microphone, there's nothing different between these two, just want to get that out of the way. We're going to do the rest of the test on the original 635A. Here we go. This is the Electro-Voice 635A omnidirectional dynamic microphone. I'm about 6 inches from the microphone, on axis. This is an omnidirectional microphone, so if I speak a little bit off to the side, or if I kind of go below or above the microphone, tonally, there shouldn't be too much of a shift, and you should still be getting the same signal in regardless of where I am on the microphone. Omnidirectional also doesn't mean that you can speak into the back of the microphone, because that doesn't work. So the omnidirectional point is from the front of the microphone around in a circle in the front of the microphone. You can get stuff picked up from behind it to a degree, but because there's no ports on the microphone, you're not going to get sound into the diaphragm the same way that you would on something that is ported. So, omnidirectional microphone, don't speak into the back of it. That being said, this is the 635A, 0 degrees on axis. This is the 635A, 90 degrees off axis. This is the 635A, 180 degrees off axis, and then right back to the front, 0 degrees on axis. This is what it sounds like when you get real close to the 635A from Electro-Voice. This is the 635A from about 6 inches. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Simple Simon said something stupid. Simple Simon said something stupid. This is the handling noise test for the 635A from Electro-Voice. The 635A from Electro-Voice. Since my beige or silver version of the 635A is considerably older than this one, I just want to do another handling test to see if there's been any degradation in the shock mount that's inside the microphone over the years. So this is another handling test on a newer 635A. Handling test for the 635A/B from Electro-Voice. Okay, now we're on the 635ND, which is the neodymium version of the 635. I'm about 6 inches off the mic, 0 degrees on axis. This is the 635ND, 90 degrees off axis. This is the 635ND, 180 degrees off axis. And now right back to the beginning. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Simple Simon said something stupid. Simple Simon said something stupid. This is what the 635ND sounds like when you get really close to the mic. And now this is about 6 inches away from the microphone. This is now a handling noise test for the 635 ND from Electro-Voice. .635 ND from Electro-Voice. All right, while neither mic is an exceptionally performing mic in the studio, they still have a very unique sound to them that is more reminiscent of vintage mics. Both of these mics are no longer being manufactured. Maybe. And I say maybe because Bosch, who is now the parent company of Electro-Voice, has released this microphone under their own branding, Bosch. However, it's not quite clear if this product is still being produced or various non-musical retailers have leftover stock that they're just being sold today. Electro-Voice claims to not know how many 635As were ever produced. I find that hard to believe, but okay. Given the microphone was still being produced up until a few years ago, one would think that a microphone that was in continuous supply for over 50 years would still be in high supply on the used market. However, that doesn't seem to be the case, and even more so for some reason with the 635ND, though that mic wasn't being produced for anywhere near the amount of time that the 635A was. There are always a few up for sale on various used marketplaces, but the asking price seems to be continually rising, and I'm not quite sure. Maybe it's because of supply and demand, but the prices on some of the ones that I've seen, a little crazy. The 635ND seems to be in short supply, with only a few popping up rarely for sale, which is kind of a shame since I thought the mic sounded pretty decent on a lot of the tests that we did. Opinions on these mics vary as widely as just about any other out there. While many tout the 635A as a sleeper mic that can fit into many situations, I don't see myself reaching for the 635A, or the ND for that matter, over other mics for certain applications. I will say, however, I did like its performance on the percussion, as the Omni pattern did pick up a little more evenly than most of the unidirectional mics I tend to use for like bongos and congas, things like that. Maybe it's time I gave these a shot for that job. If you have any questions or comments about this mic or anything we've discussed in this video, please leave me a comment down below or hit me up on the contact page on the studio website. If you've gotten anything from this video, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. And if you're already subscribed, please be sure to hit that notification button so you're notified when we post a new video. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. This is Pags, signing off.